what would I begin the last part? Anything else than kongans. Kongans are very interesting products of Zen practice, and oftentimes you may wonder, why do we have them? Why do we use them? Especially in our school, why do you have to go to interview at least once during a retreat? Okay? Every other interview is optional. Because kongans really are difficult at first when you look at them. You have these questions that are full of paradoxes, or sometimes they're brutal. For instance, one of the most controversial kongans, which I'll quote right now, is still in the minds of some other traditions because they heard it once and they can't let go of it. And that is, long time ago in the Tang Dynasty, Namchon or Nanchuan Zen master heard an enormous row from the yosache. That's the dorm. So he goes to the dorm and sees that the monks of the Eastern Hall and the monks of the Western Hall were fighting over a cat. And the Western Hall monk said, "This is our cat." And then the Eastern monk hall, monks said from their own top of the voices, "No, it's our cat." So Namchen had enough of this. He held up the cat, took out his precepts knife, and says, "You, give me one word and I save this cat. If not, I kill it." Everybody was dumbfounded. And after waiting just a little while, Namchon killed the cat. That's it. And the question is, if you had been there, how would you have saved the cat's life? Everything hinges on this one word. This one word is the appearance, the function of your enlightened mind, your wisdom and compassion. So, if you want to rephrase, react clearly, do the right thing, or say the right thing, and I save this cat. If not, I kill it, because you guys are attached. So, isn't this outrageous that a Zen master kills a cat? Most of you are Zen students or are familiar with Zen tradition, so you don't find it so outrageous. I tell you, many people find this totally unacceptable. And when they ask a question after the intro, they say, "See, I don't understand. Why did the Zen master have to kill the cat? He broke his precepts. Very important not to kill," etc., etc., etc. Okay? So they deal with the Zen master. They say, "Oh, poor little cat, got into Zen monastery. Such a bad karma." Okay? So then they deal with the cat. But they don't deal with their own inability to save the cat. And that's where we have to get down to business. Okay? So if you really understand your job in that situation, you can save the cat's life in 2 seconds. Okay? So that's a kongan which your thinking cannot solve. So the kongan's job is to stop your engine of high V10 cognition. Okay? This engine is super powerful. It's more powerful than any computers human beings will ever devise. Okay? In a split of a second, your mind, our minds, can create more than any possible computers in this universe. So, the kongan stops all these movements. Because when you want to think, you make some opposite answers, and then your answer is not correct. A kongan is a situation with some relationship and some function. Something is either missing from these three, or there is some excess. If your mind is clear, and you and this kongan become one, you see what's missing, you can fill that in. Or you see the excess, and you can take it away. That means complete. Okay? That's why thinkers, philosophers, have such a hard time with kongans. And after a few emails, they give up. But the doers, those who do it, those who practice, they don't give up. Because they know that the kongan is just a tool. It's also a situation to solve. but it's something very, very necessary to put your wisdom and compassion and power into function, into operation, okay? So if you just read the script, the user's manual, but you cannot use the equipment, what use is there for all the learning, for all the practice, okay? Likewise, if you practice, but you cannot put your practice into everyday life, into some situation, relationship, and function, then why practice? What's the use? So if it's just some dysfunctional museum, that's the Dharma room in the worst case, you know. It's a dysfunctional museum where we emulate 2,000-year-old behavior without any fruit, without any positive outcome. Then it's totally and 100% useless. That's when the soldiers come and burn the temple, okay? But if you practice correctly, then your practice brings some fruit. There is some fruition. That means you can solve the kongans. One by one, bit by bit, you can solve them. And that's when teacher is necessary, okay? So, originally the kongan, or kungan in Chinese, meant public case. I'm giving you the history. So it's not a Zen term, but it was incorporated from Confucianist government management, okay? So when they had an imperial edict, of course they didn't have printing machines, Xeroxes, etc., but they just handwritten, they made a copy, okay? And then to verify its authenticity, they put the original and the copy together, and they used a seal, a big seal. Most of that, it was a circle. Sealed it in such a way that 50% of the seal was on the left, 50% on the right. So both copies, the original and the first copy, they got it. So when the viceroy or the kind of other ruler got this edict, they could say, it looks original, but I want to verify. So they went back to the imperial court with a different envoy, and he said, sir, we would like to verify the authenticity of this document. And then they put the copy and the original together. And if the seal matched, became whole, then that meant that it was original, okay? So that's the public case, okay? Or public writ for English teachers. So then, when you have a kongan, you only know one half of the story, and you have to match the other half. And when your mind and the teacher's mind 100% match, you can do it, okay? So you find the correct supplement, the correct answer to the question. Then the original, teacher's mind, copy, your mind, became the same. And now please, don't think about cloning. It's not that, okay? Why? Because you find this out of your own effort. That means the solution becomes yours. The path on which you attain this is yours. So you do this out of your own effort. And as we know, clones are born differently. Okay? So attaining the teacher's mind, attaining the Buddha's mind, attaining the correct answer, in this case, all become the same point. And having said that, I should also emphasize that this is minor. This is not so important. What's most important is your clear function, moment to moment, correct relationship, moment to moment, and right situation, moment to moment. So the Kongan, just like any other part of Zen practice, does not teach you anything else, only correct situation, correct relationship, and correct function. But just like with training, if you did any sports or any kind of outcome-oriented thing, the training must be sometimes 5-6 times stronger than the actual exposure, okay? So if you did running, for instance, if you want to do a long-distance race of 10,000 meters, you don't train with 10,000 meters. You train with 20, 25, 30,000 meters, okay? If you want to do sprints, you don't train with one sprint. You train you train with 6 times 4, 6 times 5, 6 times 6 sprints of the same distance. Everybody knows that from sports. So here is the same. Human beings function in the monastery, and out there is not so different, only the direction is different, okay? Originally, it was different. So that's why these cases seem to be so difficult, because you really have to be clear to solve them. If you can solve the Kongan, and you sincerely apply that in your everyday life, then that helps you. That helps all beings, okay? Any questions? I expect more questions. Yeah, go ahead.
I have 2 questions, and one question is about Kongan. I don't know if I understand Kongan in a right way, because I'm afraid if I do Kongan all the time, then my energy will go up to my head. So, but you said...
Very good. We stop right here. Don't forget the rest.
Okay.
So what she said shows practice experience. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very important that you do not keep your energy up here when you use Kongans. At any other time also don't keep your energy too much up here, because you get what we call a system overload, and it's not necessary. Your thinking and your cognition, they have a tendency to, just like 2 hungry dogs, grab everything and try to eat it right away. Now, Kongans are not like that. You cannot solve it with discursive or analytic thinking. You can only solve it in the black box of don't know. So when you return to don't know, your mind, without any analysis, without any discursive thinking, intuitively works on the Kongan. So if the Kongan appears in your head, return right away to your practice of mantra, sounds, or question. Immediately direct your energy down to your tanjun. If necessary, start bowing. If necessary, start chanting. Many times, sitting is not enough for this, because if you sit, then your energy system moves very slowly. When you bow, it moves very fast. When you chant, it opens up. Okay? So it's truly important not to keep your energy here, because the Kongan makes it stuck. Okay? Pitted against each other like 2 bulls. Okay? Fighting, 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 but no one can push the other. Cannot go left, cannot go right. Okay? This kind of stuck energy here is very dangerous. In Korean, it's called sangi, rising chi. And when you have that, you can lose your teeth, you can lose your hair, and you can actually die if it's very strong, because you get a stroke. Okay? I'm telling you the extremes. Nobody died of Kongans yet. Okay? He or she would be the first martyr of Zen. But it never happened. So it's okay to have a little bit upper energy here, but don't keep it like that. Bring it down. Bring it down. And then your don't know, your intuition, your tanjun starts to function. Next question.
Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely, because you had 2.
Oh, yeah. About my second question is about afterlife. I'm wondering if there is an afterlife. I guess so, because I believe in karma, cause and result. But afterlife, it's different.
So if I tell you there's an afterlife, would you believe it?
I think I have to experience or realize it.
Great, fantastic. Do not believe any kind of Buddhist speech. Why? You are already practicing. It's clear from your first question, okay? So we give a broad outline, as I said during the Mahayana section, we give a very broad outline of these concepts to feed your intellect. It's very good food, okay? It has some wisdom behind it. But the experience is not yet yours. So meditate, and when you practice, the experience becomes yours. And let me share you one of the Buddha's teaching. He says, monks, at that time he was talking with monks. What is the useless and superfluous teaching or practice, he says? The useless and superfluous practice is thinking what I might have been in my previous life, what kind of form I might have taken, what kind of life I lived in my previous life or lives. Then they say, oh, thank you very much, world-honored one. And is there anything else which is just as superfluous as this? He says, yes. Equally superfluous is thinking what form I may take in the next life, what kind of life I will live in my next life, what kind of identity I will take in my next life. That's equally superfluous. Then they ask him, world-honored one, what is the most useful, the most practical, the most conducive practice? He says, what kind of life do I live now? What kind of form do I take now? What kind of mind do I have now? That is the most practical, the most conducive, etc. practice that you can possibly carry. So, likewise, if we had the ability to see countless of lifetimes back and forth in the past and in the future, it wouldn't help you. Because it would just describe your past karma as it was, and it would give an insight into the future as you would live it if you do not change your mind. But remember, you have free will. You have the ability to practice. You have the ability to change your karma. So what use is there to go back to the past, which is dead, and go to the future, which is unborn? Because of these, this moment is the most important, because that's the result of your past, and that's the root of your future. So this is why we do not go back and forth in time and space to find out what we might have been and what we may be. It's useless. What's really important, what are you doing right now? What kind of mind do you have right now? That determines what kind of body you get.
But people say life is suffering because everything is impermanent, changing.
Don't believe people. Don't believe anything. Use your own eyes. Use your own ears. You make life suffering, you have suffering. You make life into happiness, you have happiness. Which one do you like?
Sure, I would like to have happiness, but if there is afterwards, but we would have some kind of a comfort, there would be afterlife, another life. So even though I'm suffering now, but I can have a different life.
Would you like to believe in that?
I don't know.
Oh, don't know is much, much better, okay? Zen means do not believe in anything. Do not believe in any kind of idea. Use your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind clearly, moment to moment. That takes away any unnecessary karma. That ensures your correct future, that you will always become clear and help all beings. Okay? More question?
The different methods of meditation and pursuing enlightenment, do they, for example, Taoism and Buddhism and Zen, do they ultimately end up at the same place? Are they different methods to like vehicles to end up to the same place? And I mean place in terms of like more just awareness or an emptiness? Are they just different vehicles for different people?
Your question is very sincere, but I have to disappoint you. They do not end up in the same place. We end up in the same place. Okay? So traditions, originally, do not exist outside of us. They're not independent entities or little niches where you can enter. We represent a tradition or traditions. So outside of the teacher and the teaching and the students, there is no tradition. So it's a very sincere question, wanting to know that basically everything is sure, everything is okay. You just have to follow that sincerely. And that is correct. But if I just let that go, as you asked, you might go to the error of taking refuge in an abstraction. This abstraction is called tradition or Buddhism in the West. Originally, no Buddhism, okay? In the Orient, no Asian culture has this term Buddhism. In Korea, there's Bulgyo, which is the Buddha's teaching, or Pangbo, which is the way, or the law. But there is no Buddhism. It's a very important point. Because when you practice, you walk on the Buddha's path. When you study the Buddha's teaching. But all this abstraction through which we learn in the West was made by Western scholars. Tradition doesn't have that. That's why, in the old days, either you did it or you did not do it. So you didn't become a Buddhist just as a fan. So Buddhism is not a fan club. I have to make it really profane to make it very clear. So the Western approach is through the interpretation of many, many wonderful scientists and explorers. But those books that we read in the West are barely written by practitioners or masters. Now more and more appear. But they're not Westerners still. Some of them are Western masters and Western practitioners, wonderful. But the largest bulk of Buddhist literature was written by those people who never sat even 1 minute in any style, in any school, in any tradition whatsoever. That's why we have so many concepts that we just have to totally transcend. Okay?
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, time's up. It is my time to appreciate now all your hard work, because paying attention is hard work. And I do appreciate your questions, and I hope that sometime, some other place, we can meet again, share the Dharma again, practice together, and hopefully make another big step towards attaining enlightenment together. Thank you very much.
이 프로그램은 더불어 사는 즐거움, 전동 휠체어, 전동 스쿠터 전문 업체 JS 홈쇼핑 협찬입니다.